all your favorite wrestling shows rolled into one. Welcome to the We Book It podcast. Let's start the show.
Well, hello there, everybody, and this is a different sight to see. That's right, it is me, Coach, hosting the Smackdown Lowdown, Throwdown, Hoedown, Bring It Around Town, Throw It On Down, Whoa Now show here tonight, filling in for Teddy Lemon Pepper Step Along, as he has been. We kind of switched up the shows this week, so filling in for Teddy. Always happy to help out with the guys. But welcome to another edition of the Smackdown Lowdown. Like I said, I am Coach. In this Smackdown, it felt like a breath of fresh air, to be honest. However, the ending left me a little bit angry, and I'll explain why as we go through the breakdown of tonight's show. First off, we start with Nick Aldis in the ring, and he calls out Jacy Jayne, the champion. Chelsea comes out. You can definitely see the injury, the black eye that she has from the broken orbital bone that she suffered last week, courtesy of Fallon Henley. So Nick Aldis, and really loved what they did with this. Aldis says that he hates to do this, but as the general manager, he cannot have another injured champion. Kind of taking a shot there at how the booking's been done for the women's world champions when Rhea was injured. So he says, I am going to have to take the title away from you, Chelsea. Of course, Chelsea gives a very passionate promo about how she can get through this, how she'll get healthy. She'll get cleared by medical. Nick Aldis, however, does not agree and takes the title from her. But as she is walking towards the backstage, crowd is not happy about it. Nick Aldis stops and says, well, this is my GM duties to relinquish your title. As a man, I cannot stand by. And he gives Chelsea 30 days to get medically cleared for her next title defense before she relinquishes it. They share a great moment in the ring, hugging. The crowd is loving it. The crowd was great behind Chelsea tonight, only for Gunther to come by and kill the moment in typical heel fashion, berates Aldis, even pokes fun at Jacy Jayne. Interestingly enough, that brings out Matt Cardona. So Cardona comes out, with the usual keep my wife's name out of your mouth kind of stuff, and they go at it. He throws Gunther onto ringside. Nick Aldis immediately schedules a match. So before we get to the match, this was great for Chelsea, and I think this is long overdue. She is going to be the most beloved babyface in the women's division, and what they're going to do, what they need to keep doing, I should say, is keep painting her like the underdog that she is. The crowd was hot. Aldis was great, kind of teetering with emotions with the crowd, and the crowd is just fully behind her. And that's why this was such a great opening segment and something that we haven't seen in a while. So it was a nice breath of fresh air. So we get back from commercial break, and then we go straight into our first match, which is Matt Cardona versus Gunther. And this was an impromptu match, literally, because both men are still in their jeans when they are wrestling each other. Love that little detail right there. Gunther pretty much dominated this, powerbombing Cardona onto the commentary table, and while Cardona did fight back as Chelsea was there at ringside, he delivered a really nice Rough Rider for a near fall, but Gunther put him down with power bombs, then tapped him out with the Boston Crab. After the match was over, Nia Jax and Lash Legend hit the ring, and Nia basically said that she wants a women's championship match. But before she could do anything, Tiffany Stratton came out and made the save. Not really well, but she did make somewhat of a distraction, but she got bruised ribs and so she has a title match later on in the night. So very interesting to see how they go about with that. But I want to talk about this match. This was a glorified squash match. There was no doubt about that. But again, the fact that Cardona and Gunther worked in jeans that is selling the idea of that impromptu match, and it was really nice to see. I keep saying that about these openings, these first two things, is that it's a breath of fresh air for SmackDown that has been kind of treading water a lot in the past couple of months. Cardona was great as usual with his selling. Without that, I don't think this match has the same effect that it would. And you could feel for Cardona. You were rooting for him. And even when he gives you that little bit of hope that he's going to win, he sells it well. Gunther just being his usual self, that's always going to be good. But the main story, the first 30 minutes of the show was all about Chelsea Green. That is a huge factor when it comes to booking, because this shows that the company is rewarding her and believing her, and that she can be a good champion, and they are letting her being featured at the top of the show. It is very rare to see that for not just any champion. When any champion starts the show and the first 30 minutes are surrounded by your storyline, then that means the company has a lot of trust in you. And I think they're starting to see that with Chelsea Green. Ever since the Michael Hayes comment on WWE Unreal about Chelsea, there has been a fire in her, but also an appreciation from the fans. And it is just both of those working together is allowing Chelsea to be on this big push that WWE is going with. I am waiting for them to get rid of that interim tag and just make her just straight up champion. And if they have, maybe I missed it. I apologize. I do love Chelsea's shirt, though, that crossed out interim champion and put permanent champ that she was wearing tonight. So that was some really, really good opening segments there. First 30 minutes of SmackDown, fantastic. We got a couple backstage segments, nothing really too crazy about. So we go into our next match, which is a United States Championship match between Boston's own Carmelo Hayes and Baron Corbin. Hayes, being in Boston, got the typical home reaction. But in past weeks, you kind of were wondering, WWE's booking has been kind of catered to the hometown fans, the hometown kids or wrestlers. So you were kind of wondering, would this be another title change at hands? And would the U.S. Championship just kind of be floating around between Trick, Baron, and Carmelo? Well, Hayes dominated the first couple bit, but it was mainly Corbin who dominated the match. Hayes actually went with a first 48 and almost got a near fall on Corbin, but after he hit two straight first 48s, he went up from the top rope to look like he was going to hit his finisher. Corbin knocked him off the ropes into the guardrail, and from there he was stunned. Corbin got him in the ring, delivered end of days, and successfully retained. After the match was over, Trick Williams then appeared, which allowed Lil Yachty to come back and attack Corbin with a kendo stick. It did no damage at all. Then as Corbin was dealing with Lil Yachty, Trick Williams came in and laid him out with a trick shot. So while the match itself was decent, moving straight from Hayes to Williams was a choice that it almost feels like they just said, okay, Carmelo, here's your match for your hometown. Now get out of the picture. It just kind of, it felt weird. I am hoping this leads to a triple threat. I am really hoping this leads to a triple threat match soon, but I don't know. With the way WWE has been booking Carmelo, I'm not going to get my hopes up for that, but that's to each their own. One thing that Hayes did in this match, he broke out a frog splash in honor of Eddie Guerrero, and it was kind of funny. The tidbits that Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett were talking about. So Hayes, like I said, Hayes broke out the frog splash in honor of Eddie Guerrero, and Hayes even mentioned that he watched Eddie Guerrero square off against Rey Mysterio in a main event in Boston. And that is why just those little tidbits make for great commentary and understanding of why wrestlers do what they do. Corbin looked really strong again there, as too. His athleticism has definitely improved, and that end of days, it's still a really, really good one. All right, we go to our next match, or not even match, it's our next segment, which is Kevin Owens and CM Punk facing off. So as Kevin Owens was about to start his promo, CM Punk came out and cut in front of him. It was a great job of Owens and Punk to rehash their history. And you could sense the tension with every single word, especially with Kevin, that this felt personal. Owens talked about Punk's history of burning bridges, almost referencing but not referencing the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega in AEW. He didn't name them. And, of course, the big one, Punk yelling at a young Kevin Owens on the independent scene in front of his friends in the locker room. Punk then claimed he had spent the last 2 decades evolving and getting better, while Owens never put in the work to do so, to which Owens said that he's glad he's not evolving, that he is staying the same because he doesn't want to turn in. His whole goal is to not turn into the guy that CM Punk is. They went back and forth. The battle of insults finished with Kevin Owens claiming he will beat Punk's bitch ass next week, while Punk vowed to put Kevin Owens' fat ass to sleep. Just the blending of reality is what makes this rivalry so good. It's a shame it's only just a short rivalry. Hopefully this continues into more, but with the short schedule, getting this into a title match next week, they have done a great job just building that tension and rehashing that history that both of these men have with each other. And of course, they're both really good on the mic. So it is just the lines being blurred. Like I said, there was just enough heat between the two to sell the idea that there is legitimate bad blood between them, and that any given word about each other is a fact. Just those blurred lines, selling the frustration and anger with the other, just putting over that championship match next week in Toronto. And of course, you got CM Punk daring Kevin Owens to mention these AEW wrestlers to get people to stump. Of course, if you remember Drew McIntyre's segment when he talked about he was the chosen one, Punk obviously referencing Vince McMahon said, well, then who was the one who chose you? Who was the one that labeled you the chosen one? So just kind of stuff like that makes for a really fun segment. All right. We go to our next match, which is a triple threat match for the WWE Tag Team Championship. It is between the MFTs, Damian Priest and R-Truth, and the War Raiders. This match was... There was a good run at the beginning where everyone just had some chaos. We got to commercial, and then it just wasn't as sharp as I thought it should be. Towards the end, it got better. Once R-Truth went in and got his John Cena moves, his 5 moves of doom, and then the 5-knuckle shuffle, that kind of picked up the pace and everything. But it just kind of felt like there was something missing with that. And at the end of the day, the MFTs with Haku win the new championships. I am curious to see how this run goes now that they don't have Solo with them. No offense to Solo, but having them tied into the bloodline story just only brought them down. So having them go out on their own is a great choice, and I like that they brought in Haku and letting him kind of guide them. It makes sense. But as for everything else, it just wasn't the best. I think it could have been executed better. But going forward, the main thing is going to be what's going to happen with Damian Priest and R-Truth. I do think they are going to go their separate ways. I think Priest is going to re-enter the WWE Championship title scene, and R-Truth is going to be into that mid-card division and maybe work his way towards the United States Championship. So yeah, that's kind of how that was my thoughts on that match. We get to our next match, which is another championship match, which is the U.S. Women's Championship. It is Tiffany Stratton taking on Jacy Jayne. This one was very rushed. No fault of the women's, but because of time constraints, they really had to get going. So there wasn't a whole lot of psychology being built. They just went boom, boom, boom into their spots. Again, not blaming them. They were on a tight schedule. The fact that they got done as quickly as they could, I applaud the women for doing that. But as late in the match, as Tiffany scaled the ropes to deliver the prettiest moonsault ever, Fallon Henley and Laney Reed were on the outside. Chelsea Green came down to help out, but as that was going on, Tiffany hit Reed and Henley on the outside, and then as she came into the ring, Jayne rocked her with the rolling encore and won the title. So right now, Fatal Influence has the gold. Not only does this get gold on a heel, which is usually a better option given how many baby faces we have on the SmackDown side of things, it also moves the tension between Stratton and Green. This is going to build for a future rivalry, and I'm all for it because Tiffany never trusted Chelsea to begin with, and then once Tiffany did start to get her trust, what happens? When she tries to help out Chelsea, she not only gets hurt, but she also loses her title in the same night. So that is going to build some tension there. I would assume it's going to be a slow burn, but eventually Tiffany will go back to being a heel, and it'll be her versus Chelsea for the championship. I don't know when that's going to happen. Could happen at Survivor Series, could happen on a random SmackDown, could happen on Sunday night's main event. I don't know, but there's going to be a title match between those two, and this was just kind of the appetizer for it. So this was really great. As for the championship change, that's cool. I'm indifferent on that one, but just the storyline of Tiffany and Chelsea is what really sold it for me. That's I just think that was great. That was just a really, really good segment there and a good job of building on this future rivalry. All right, we go to our next match. I say match in quotations, and I'll explain why. Between Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn, which was initiated in a backstage segment. Cody came out to the ring. Sami, as he was walking out from his entrance, Randy Orton came through the crowd and hit a rope DDT onto Cody. Cody tried to counter an RKO with a crossroads, but Randy got away, and then they started going into the crowd. Cody threw a trash can at Randy. Randy kept beating up Cody. Finally, Randy got Cody onto the announce table and was getting the ring steps set up, had Cody's head in there, looking for what he did the night that before WrestleMania, or a couple weeks before WrestleMania, when Cody gave him the approval to become the Viper. He was about to deliver another chair shot to his head, but Cody hit a low blow. Randy's now stuck on the steel steps, and Cody grabs the chair, getting ready to hit him with the same chair shot that Randy hit Cody with on the build to WrestleMania, only for a producer to step in and grab the chair. And, of course, because of time constraints, I don't know who to blame on this one, but we didn't get to see the rest of it because as we fade to black, Cody comes back to punch Randy and go after him. So kind of killed the momentum of what a great ending this was. And it's funny because there's two things I like about this. I'll start number one with, which isn't the Randy Cody segment. It's about Sami. This is going to keep adding to the conspiracies of Sami, of like he is being screwed out of his title shots. So I think that is great. That is going to, I think it's going to really keep building the storyline with that. So that was good. Now on to the Randy and Cody side. Cody, well, first off, this rivalry is so much better when we don't have Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee. That's a given. But also, Cody made it a point last week that he doesn't have to be the stand-up guy anymore because he doesn't have the title. He doesn't have to be the good guy with the face. He can do what he needs to do, and we're starting to see the glimpses of a heel turn. And the fact that he was going to hit that on Randy tonight shows that it is getting closer than you think. I don't believe the reports that he refused to turn at SummerSlam and why they weren't the main event. I truly believe that is because they wanted Brock Lesnar to be the main event. I don't think it's because Cody rejected turning heel. I think he wants to do it properly. I think that's for sure. And I think we're getting that. He is slowly putting in those heel tendencies that we have been waiting for in Cody. So we'll see how this rivalry goes with Randy. Could we possibly get a double turn in this situation where Randy turns face and Cody turns heel? I don't know, but there's a lot more possibilities with this than where we were at WrestleMania because we don't have celebrity involvement. So this is the buildup that these two should have had going into WrestleMania. But I'm upset we didn't get it then. Glad we're getting it now. This was a fantastic show. Like I said, the ending kind of sucked, but because of how it was cut off. But at the same time, this was a great show because it had meaningful storylines, title changes, and just everything going forward with SmackDown that's kind of been lacking the last, I would say, couple months, honestly, with the blue brand. But this finally felt fresh. It felt new. This was what SmackDown needed. And I think it's just because, and I could be biased here, I think it's because we have somebody who's not the typical champion being the champion. It's because we have a Chelsea Green being a crowd favorite that is the title. No offense to Rhea. Rhea can only carry it for so long without being repetitive. This is something fresh. This is something new. So this is very, very exciting for SmackDown. I think this is huge to build off of. And I think they're going to do another good job next week in Toronto because they have a championship match between Kevin Owens and CM Punk, the first time that these two have ever faced off in WWE. Of course, WWE claiming this will be the first time ever, but you know how they are. So that's going to do it for me here tonight. Thanks to everyone that tuned in. I see all of your comments. I appreciate you guys. There's a couple on there that can't repeat, but I thank you for some of those comments. I appreciate you. But we will. I would just want to thank Teddy for letting me step in for him tonight and filling in as we kind of do some switching around with the shows right now. Just realized at the bottom there we have that is not our stuff. That was an accident. Okay, well, as long as you didn't focus too much on that on the bottom line, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this edition of the Smackdown Lowdown, Hoedown, Throwdown, Bring It Around Town, Whoa Now, Throw It Down recap show with me, Coach. Thank you all again. I'll see you next time. I don't know which show I'm going to be doing now, but hey, I'm just going to be jumping around. I will see you guys on Sunday, though, for our recap show of all things in wrestling here at the We Book It podcast. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to all of our content here and keep commenting like you are and everything. We see these comments. We want to do what's best for you, our audience. So again, thank you all. I'm Coach. I'll see you next time. Bye.